There is a map hanging in the CIA's original headquarters in Langley, Virginia. It shows the Middle East as it looked in 1953. Every border, every pipeline, every oil field. And somewhere in that building, there is a file stamped Operation Ajax, a 68-page operational blueprint that describes, in precise bureaucratic language, exactly how to destroy a functioning democracy, install a compliant dictator, and redirect the oil revenue of an entire nation into foreign bank accounts. The file was declassified in 2013, 60 years after the operation. By that point, the consequences had already killed hundreds of thousands of people, ignited for major wars, produced the Iranian Revolution, created the conditions for 9/11, and set the Middle East on a trajectory of violence that has not stopped burning for a single day since. One operation, 68 pages, 70 years of consequences. And the men who wrote it retired comfortably on government pensions. To understand what broke, you have to understand what existed before the break. In 1951, Iran was something genuinely rare in that part of the world, a functioning, elected, constitutional democracy. Not a perfect one, but a real one, with a parliament that argued, with a free press that criticized, with a prime minister who had been voted into office by an overwhelming popular mandate. His name was Mohammad Mossadegh. He was a lawyer, a nationalist, a man who had spent his entire career studying exactly one question: why was Iran poor? The answer was not complicated. Iran sat on one of the largest oil reserves on the planet. Beneath the Iranian desert, beneath the Iranian mountains, beneath the Persian Gulf, there was enough petroleum to make every Iranian citizen wealthy for generations. None of that wealth was reaching Iranian citizens. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, a British corporation that would later rename itself BP, had been extracting Iranian oil since 1913 under a contract so tilted it was almost mathematical in its cruelty. For every dollar of profit that stayed inside Iran, approximately $4 left the country and went directly to British shareholders. Iran received 16% of the revenue from its own geological inheritance. Britain received 84%. Mossadegh did the only rational thing a democratically elected leader could do. He nationalized the oil company. On March 15, 1951, the Iranian parliament voted unanimously to take back control of their own oil fields. The vote was not close. It was not controversial inside Iran. It was simply a nation deciding that its natural resources belonged to its own people. The British government called it theft. What happened next is the part the history textbooks skip. Britain did not take Iran to court. Britain did not negotiate. Britain engineered a total economic siege. Within weeks of nationalization, British warships appeared in the Persian Gulf, not to attack, to blockade. Any tanker that attempted to load Iranian oil was intercepted. Any shipping company that attempted to do business with the new Iranian National Oil Company received a legal threat from London. Any nation that considered buying Iranian crude received quiet diplomatic pressure to reconsider. The world's most powerful empire had decided that Iran's oil would not reach the market. For 2 years, Iran's primary export revenue dropped to almost zero. Inflation erupted. The middle class began to collapse. Basic government services started failing. The same population that had cheered Mossadegh's nationalization began feeling the grinding physical weight of an economy being strangled from the outside. Mossadegh went to the United Nations. He made his case clearly and eloquently. He explained that a sovereign nation had simply decided to control its own resources. The Security Council did nothing. He went to the International Court of Justice. The court ruled in Iran's favor. The nationalization was legal under international law. The blockade continued anyway. By 1953, Britain had a problem. The economic siege was working, but too slowly. And the Americans were nervous. Not about Iran's democracy, about the word communist. The Cold War was at its peak, and American foreign policy analysts had convinced themselves that a weakened Mossadegh might open the door to Soviet influence in Iran. The CIA director at the time was Allen Dulles. His brother John Foster Dulles was the Secretary of State. Between them, they controlled the operational and diplomatic machinery of American foreign policy. They approved Operation Ajax in July 1953. The budget was approximately $1 million, a trivial sum to purchase the destruction of an entire country. The operation had 4 components. The CIA flooded Tehran with cash. Editors of major Iranian newspapers were paid to run anti-Mossadegh stories. Religious leaders were paid to denounce him from the pulpit. Military officers were paid to prepare for action. Street gang leaders were paid to organize mobs. Simultaneously, a coordinated media campaign manufactured the narrative that Mossadegh was a dangerous radical leading Iran toward communism, a narrative with no factual basis, built entirely from purchased opinion and fabricated headlines. Then on August 19, 1953, the physical operation executed. Mobs paid by the CIA flooded the streets of Tehran. They attacked pro-government newspapers. They created the visual appearance of a popular uprising against Mossadegh. Under the cover of that manufactured chaos, military units loyal to the Shah, units whose commanders had been receiving CIA payments for weeks, moved into position. Sherman tanks rolled through the streets. Shells hit the Prime Minister's residence directly. By nightfall, Mossadegh had been arrested. The Shah, who had actually fled the country in panic days earlier believing the operation had failed, was flown back in on an American military aircraft and reinstalled on the Peacock throne. The whole operation took 24 hours. The financial settlement that followed was swift and precise. A new oil consortium was established. Anglo-Iranian, now rebranded as British Petroleum, received 40%. American companies, Standard Oil of New Jersey, Standard Oil of California, Texaco, Gulf Oil, divided another 40% between them. Shell received 14%. A French company received 6%. Iran received a slightly improved royalty rate on its own oil. The men who had designed the nationalization and fought for Iranian sovereignty were imprisoned, exiled, or silenced. Mossadegh was convicted of treason in a military tribunal. He spent 3 years in prison, then the remainder of his life under house arrest at his family estate. He was 71 years old when they arrested him. He died at 84, having not spoken freely in public for over a decade. He asked to be buried in his living room, so that no one could turn his grave into a monument, so that no one could ever forget where he died and why. The Shah ruled for 26 years. His secret police force, SAVAK, trained and equipped by the CIA, became one of the most feared internal security organizations in the world. Estimates of political prisoners tortured under SAVAK run into the tens of thousands. Amnesty International described the human rights situation as among the worst on the planet. All of this happened with full American knowledge. All of it was considered acceptable because the oil was flowing in the right direction. In 1979, 26 years of suppressed rage detonated simultaneously. The Iranian Revolution overthrew the Shah in a matter of weeks. The fury was not simply directed at the monarchy. It was directed at everything the monarchy represented and the nation that had installed it and sustained it for a generation. The hostage crisis, the decade of sanctions, the arming of Saddam Hussein during the Iran-Iraq War, the shooting down of Iran Air Flight 655 by a U.S. Navy vessel, killing 290 civilians. Every one of those events traces a direct line back to the 72 hours of Operation Ajax. The Middle East did not break by accident. It was broken deliberately by specific people using specific money for a specific commercial purpose. The declassified CIA documents confirm it. The oil revenue transfers confirm it. The corporate ownership records of the post-coup consortium confirm it. $1 million to stage the operation. Hundreds of billions extracted from the Iranian economy over the following decades. 70 years of regional instability, for major wars, a revolution, a hostage crisis, and a sanctions regime that has impoverished 85 million people who never voted for any of it. The architects of Operation Ajax received commendations. Kermit Roosevelt Jr., the CIA officer who ran the operation on the ground, wrote a memoir about it. He gave speeches about it. He was celebrated in Washington. Nobody went to jail. Nobody paid $1. Nobody apologized. The scorch marks are still there. You just have to know where to look. Hit subscribe. We are just getting started.